All right, so welcome to the Boruto podcast. This is a very special episode today. We got Sean Chiplock here, the legend. We got WatchBoruto, BorutoFan, and everyone else here joining us here today. Thank you so much, Sean, for pulling up.
Yeah,
and being
although
part of
legend according to who? Who was the deciding council for this?
Hey, if you do
What do you
anything,
mean?
Boruto, you good,
Can
buddy?
Well, Sean,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, I will answer that question. We have our team here at Two Blue Vortex and twobluevortex.com/Hall of Fame. We do have a Legends page, and
Okay.
I'd say that you being here right now is actually pretty legendary. So I think that qualifies, you know.
So like, if I had you interview my cat, would he be added to the legendary page? Is that
oh,
the
definitely.
entry?
Oh,
Okay.
is that what your
100%.
is that what your profile picture is? Like
No.
a picture of, okay.
If my
What
cat
is
looked
that?
like that, I'd have some bigger concerns going on. But no, that is an artist's beautiful masterpiece rendition of Shinx from a Gartic Phone art stream that we did.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Gartic Phone.
Platinum.
I thought it was like
favorite Pokemon
your
game.
cat, and then you just drew it.
Yeah, Gen 4.
Yeah, Gen 4 is my favorite. Platinum's the
Pokemon.
best.
You voiced for Pokemon, didn't you?
Yeah, right.
Yes, I am Seabold and Nanu in Pokemon Masters EX, and then in the Pokemon Detective Pikachu movie, I have two sporadic lines. I'm the train PSA announcer, and I'm the arena match announcer during those respective scenes.
Wow.
I thought I heard metal.
Well, so wait.
Right. You want to start
So
it
how
off,
did
Zuke?
you? Yeah. So how'd you get into voice acting, and how does someone even end up in your position?
Well, I will ask you to elucidate on the second half of that question, by which you mean on get into my position. But in terms of starting voice acting, well, no, I mean that sincerely, because there's a
I got
bunch
you.
of different ways you can answer that. In terms of getting started in voice acting, I tell people very frequently it was complete random chance. I discovered it around the time I was in the second half of my high school career, curriculum, whatever you want to call it, basically midway through junior year. Leading up into that point, you know, I was taking my advanced classes, I was taking college prep classes, I was doing fine, but there was nothing that was holding my interest enough where we were still fairly early on into the concept of figuring out what you wanted to major in once you went to college. And there was nothing that I cared about enough to want to spend 4 years focused on classes surrounding it going into college. You know, my solution, as was the solution for many people of my neurodivergence during the late 90s, early 2000s, was staying up to all odd hours of the morning, 3 a.m., you know, listening to Toonami in the background while it was cycling through its shows for the evening, doing my dailies on Neopets for the child side of me and MapleStory for the teenager side of me. And when I say voice acting was a random discovery, it was one evening, just a random evening in particular. I ended up so bored of what I was usually doing that Adult Swim had been advertising its website pretty nonstop in a very annoying way. But me, being an impressionable young teenager, decided to just finally check out the website. You know, this was back when that Unicorn Dash game was really popular with that song that everyone kept singing. I tried out some of the games. I was checking out, you know, there were clips of upcoming anime episodes. Do any of you remember an older anime called Trinity Blood by any chance?
No, I never heard of it.
Imagine,
I don't know what that is.
Imagine Twilight, but it's an anime and the vampires are killing each other in cool ways, where it's like, hey, we're the good vampires and we need to stop the bad vampires from taking over the Vatican and converting it into like a blood farm for themselves. It's pretty sick. And the clip had a little bonus behind the scenes video that you could click, and that led to me watching a voice actor in a booth recording for some of the lines that the character was saying during that clip. So this was the first time I had ever seen a person doing the recording process for the show that I would later then watch when it aired on Toonami. And why I say it's so silly is because, you know, I grew up on cartoons. I'd played video games that had voices, and perhaps even strangely, more strangely, my brother and I would play Nintendo 64 games, and we would take turns reading out the lines of the characters and doing character voices. But there was just a failure of connection where my brain never considered, hey, that's what people do for the cartoons that you watch. I think now that I've had time to think about it, I think my logic was, well, obviously the cartoon isn't real. They are drawing the characters on a cell and animating the cells. So probably there isn't they're synthesizing the voices on a computer. Because you remember, or if you ever grew up on like Game Boy that had sound effects, or Speak and Spell where it would say out the letters, but it was clearly like a computerized voice. So I just figured it was all done by a computer. And then after seeing an actual person in a booth recording it, that's when I was like, oh, this is something that people can do, and it's a job, it's a career. And it was all downhill from there because I'd always naturally had a lot of energy. I had a very active imagination. I daydreamed of being able to like call out my attacks the way that characters did in games like Tales of Symphonia. And so now that I finally had something that held my interest and it wasn't something being forced upon me, it was just something I naturally felt attached to. I wanted to do whatever I could to be a part of it. So I joined, Newgrounds communities on the forums. I joined a voice acting club forum, which is now a Discord. I was researching it. I was making stupid skits on Windows Sound Recorder based on games that were big at the time, like Final Fantasy VII and stuff like that. And really, the passion is just what carried on to this day. It was just this enjoyment of being able to portray all these different characters, these ideologies, these attitudes, these personalities, and be a part of all these different worlds where anything and everything can happen, and treating it as if it's serious and it's real, where real life can be kind of boring at times. So regarding the second half of the question, which was, how does someone get into my position? Just define what you mean by that.
So you kind of answer a little bit of it, but it's more like how you can actually get into a position where you can live off of what you do.
Well,
and the business side of it, you have the agents and stuff. Just so
Sure.
This is for your fans, anyone who's a big fan of you is
Sure.
interested in following your path. And also I wanted to mention animation cells and production material. I actually just finished building my website or on the 1st. It's called animationproduction.net.
Right.
It is just a guidebook for people who collect production cells, anime drawings, stuff like that. I have built a guidebook for collectors, so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Congratulations!
Yeah, thanks, man. But yeah, that's how does a fan follow your steps?
So regarding getting into that same position, well, the first thing I'll say is when we talk about doing it as full time, that requires a lot more work than doing it as a source of income or as a side thing, because I think the metric currently is that somewhere around 12 to 14% of actors, I don't know if it's voice actors or all actors, but for their sake, I hope it's voice actors, because otherwise it's even lower for voice actors. But 12 to 14% of people in the industry work that industry often enough that they could do it full time without needing a side source of income. That means you're looking at 86% of people that are like, I want to get into VO, who can make money off of it, but it's not about making money, and you're going to be putting in a lot of work just to be cast for roles that would pay money in the first place. So I guess what I'm trying to get at with that is, do not come into it with the approach of, how do I make money from this? You have to I stopped short of saying you got to be in it for the love of the game, but you need to have a natural drive that wants you to be involved in the industry regardless of how successful you are, because ironically, that same drive is what's going to make it more likely that you can find success. So to get into the nitty gritty of the actual answer to this question, for folks that want to get into voice acting, the main question you want to ask yourself is, and it's okay if your answer changes over time. Some folks are saying they only hear me, so I don't know if they're able to hear everybody else. At least that's what I'm seeing in the little chat blurbs on the upper right. The first and most important thing is to ask yourself, why am I wanting to get involved in this? Is it because what drives me to be involved in voice acting? And I would even like half seriously call it Stockholm syndrome in my case, where the reason why I'm so entrenched in VO is because I cannot imagine doing anything else. I can't. I have had other jobs. I would fall asleep trying to do them. Repetition can be fun when it's something I want to do, but it can put me to sleep if it's not something I'm interested on.
You just
I
got to be
noticed that,
motivated. You got to have
yeah,
motivation.
you do. I am noticing that people are saying they're only hearing me. So did you want me to hold off until we can potentially?
No, you're good. I think Watch Boruto has some.
Okay.
That's him. But I got my questions here. So
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't
okay.
hear him
So-
if
oh, you're good. You're
if
back.
he's talking.
You're good.
Okay, so you.
All right. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our recent partnerships. It is with Caillou Select. They are official distributors of official Naruto trading cards and hopefully some Boruto ones in the future. If you go to twobluevortex.com/Naruto cards or the link in the podcast description, you can be directed straight to the store to get some Naruto trading cards, official Naruto trading cards. And if you want to be part of their community, just go to boruto.gg/Caillou, KAYOU, and you can be part of their community. So with that, I also want to tell you all that they are sending us some packs of Naruto cards. So we will be giving those out in our community, mainly in the Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Discord, through our Reddit now, and the Boruto X community on Twitter, which you can find on the Boruto Podcast website. So if you want to get some free Naruto cards directly from the Boruto Club and the Boruto Podcast, join our Discord. All right, let's get back to the podcast.
You want to ask yourself, like, what do I want to be involved in? Because, for example, I grew up on Toonami and a lot of anime. So, yeah,
Mhm.
you know, at least early on, a big inspiration for me was I want to voice in an anime someday. And the reason why that's important is because knowing what it is that's driving you to get involved can help you figure out the next steps of what you would want to do in that career. For example, for someone like me who's like, oh my God, I'm dreaming of voicing a character in an anime someday, then I would look into specific workshops of, you know, who are the people that are working in anime or directors that cast for anime? What are they looking for? What kinds of shows are airing nowadays? You know, if you hear a lot of a specific actor, what kind of character are they often cast as? If you are someone who wants to be in movies, then maybe you need to learn about, you know, stage acting or on camera acting. If you're someone who wants to be involved in what I call corporate narration or educational, like ESL or company training videos or stuff like that. There's a lot of online and freelance websites where you can look for clients who are looking for people to narrate, you know, scripts that they have. One of my most recurring freelance jobs, which it's not an agent, it's not a studio thing. I just get hired by this client to do stuff for their company, is dozens upon dozens of training videos to like help employees become more efficient at their jobs, of like, you know, things to keep in mind as a manager or onboarding employees to the company. They're not anything that any of you would know or find interesting, but for me, that 30 minutes that I spend recording a company training video pays me $650. You know, like that's part of making.
Sounds like fun though too.
For me,
Honestly,
it
that just
is.
sounds fun.
Yeah, like that's where the mentality plays into it, because, you know, maybe the script is about something I'll never need in my life, but there was one time that I had to narrate like a 40-minute script about like the legal repercussions of data breaches for a company. Like we're talking the government getting involved if you leaked out certain types of data. And I had to read this very seriously, but the whole time I'm narrating it, I'm like, oh my God, I would never get to learn this in a regular basis, you know? So
Yeah.
having access to info that I normally wouldn't learn is very exciting for me. So in terms of getting the practice, I would say that's where you just have to have the hunger. You got to have the hunger and the drive. Is I want to be involved. I want to learn more about this. Whether that is checking out different websites, joining different VO communities, going onto forums and seeing if people are asking, you know, if there's a game Discord, is there an audio channel where they're saying, hey, we're doing a casting call for these characters, or we want to implement audio into our game. Blue Sky and X, formerly known and correctly known as Twitter, often have casting calls. A lot of people will say, hey, we have a casting call up for this project. You know, here's the audition sides, or send in your demo if you're interested. So just being willing to search online and look for those opportunities is a big part of it as well. And then in terms of developing your career to the point where you could do it full time, that is probably the most time intensive because you can prepare as much as you want, you can train as much as you want, you can make connections as much as you want, but you don't control the flow of time. And I would not consider myself to be like double A or triple A celebrity tier. Even in terms of voice actors, I can think of people like Yuri Lowenthal or Steve Bloom or Liam O'Brien or Troy Baker or Matt Mercer, who we would call like the upper echelon of popularity when it comes to voice acting. I am not nearly as big as any of those people, and I struggle to even consider myself a celebrity outside of something like maybe Digital Circus. But the fact remains that I do work this industry very consistently and I work it often enough to do it full time. And I believe the reason for that is because besides spending, let's see, I started in 2007. So we're almost at 20
Oh,
years that
jeez.
I've been doing voiceover. It was January 1st, 2007 was baby's first day as an I want to be a voice actor. So I've been doing this professionally full time for about 13 years. Overall is about 20 years, which is crazy for me to think about. But across those 20 years, and even if we just account for the 6 years between when I started VO and when I moved out to California, um, we are talking about, just auditioning for everything I could get my hands on. We're talking about constantly learning new resources. We're talking about attending workshops. We're talking about being involved in the community. Once I moved out to California, we're talking about going to in-person workshops, going to opportunities to perform in front of casting directors. Once I finally got a job, it was about showing up on time, about listening to the instructions that I was being given, completing the job in the hours that I've been allotted. Because if you think about, a 4-hour video game session, the client has an amount of content that they need to get done within those 4 hours. And if I don't finish within the time allotted, they can always book another session and pay me another session fee. But I'm telling you right now, they're going to hire the talent who gets stuff done on or ahead of schedule more consistently than they're going to hire talent that end up costing the studio and the client more money. Um, and so now we're talking about 2 decades of just being consistent, reliable, and professional. I submit my auditions on time. When I book the gig, I show up to the studio on time. I get the work done. I'm respectful. I don't cause drama online for the most part anyway. I I I treat the craft that I love with the seriousness and passion that it deserves. And I hate that this would even be considered an exception, but I've heard stories of people in the industry who wield their influence in an inappropriate way where they are abusive towards fans or abusive towards clients or entitled or just act in ways that don't make sense to me. And so to some degree, the way that I boil it down, because I could talk about this for another 20, 30 minutes easily, regardless of what career that you're in, at some point you're going to have to work with other people. If you're hosting a podcast, you're going to have to, work with whoever you're hosting the podcast with. If you're working a retail job, you have to talk to customers. If you're working a voiceover job, you have to talk to the client or the director. Any job in the world, you're going to have to work with other people in some way or another. And the golden rule is if you are someone that people want to work with, surprise, surprise, they will try and find ways to work with you. So for me, it's not about, I feel like where my success comes from is not being an incredible talent or being the absolute best in the world or selling myself to people and saying, you should use me in your project. It is presenting an idea or a performance that is fun or interesting or exciting enough that the client goes, oh, I really want to incorporate this in my project. And then as a person, being reliable and consistent and friendly and professional enough that they go, hey, when we work with Sean Chiplock, he makes our life easier. We get done ahead of time. We have fun during the session. Things sound great. People enjoy interacting with him. We can, pitch him to conventions and other projects because he's not, a PR disaster. I'm sure a lot of. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was laughing.
But yeah, so
Just
I mean, I'm sure the audience listening right now, if any of you have been like following up on voice actor news to some degree, especially if you've ever seen like drama tubers at any point, I'm sure most of you can think of at least one actor who used to work a lot. I'm not naming anyone specific. I'm saying this generally. I'm sure you can think of at least one actor who used to work a lot and now you don't really hear about them anymore. And whether that's because of accusations that were made or the ways that they conducted themselves or horror stories that were shared, like people who cause problems for others usually only get to stick around because they haven't found a suitable replacement yet. But the folks you hear over and over and over and over and over again across months, across years, across decades generally are heard so often because they make life easier for everyone else around them. So that is the real secret to having a thriving voiceover career. You don't need to be the best, and you don't even necessarily have to be varied. Don LaFontaine had only one voice, and he worked so much that Don LaFontaine, for those of you who don't know, was the In a World, like the movie promo guy. When he passed away, they still had about 3.5 years of recorded content from him for stuff that hadn't released yet, because that was how much work this guy had done before he'd even, passed on. So you don't have to be the best, and you don't even have to be like the most versatile. You just have to be good at what you're doing and also not be a pain in the ass to work with.
mm. And that comes with time and experience to pick up on how to get good.
I would say I wasn't I learned over time, but I know that there was a point in my career where I was a little full of myself, and whether it was through the professional realm or through the freelance realm, I got myself knocked down a few pegs and I learned some harsh life lessons that were really important for me to learn. So, I wasn't perfect out of the get-go, but yes, time, experience, and humility helped me hone and focus on what mattered the most.
Yeah, and also I wanted to mention we I am motivated with this community we've built here.
Yeah.
We call it the Boruto Club. That's our website, boruto.club. And it
Right.
has the podcast site on there. We have twobluevortex.com if you're familiar with Two Blue Vortex, the
Mhm.
upcoming anime. So that's what I've been motivated with, and I'm a graphic designer and I build websites. So that's why we're here today. And thank you for sharing that, by the way, for everyone that was listening, how you
Yeah.
can follow in Sean's footsteps. So my next question is, how did you end up in the Boruto franchise?
So that is an unfortunate situation, as I'm sure many of you know. My involvement in Boruto began with Metal Lee, and that was because the original voice actor Billy Kometz unfortunately passed away after a battle with cancer a couple years into the project. And as is, you might imagine the case, if an actor was voicing a character who then passes away and the series is still ongoing, at some point they're probably going to look for someone to replace the character. I believe in the case of Metal Lee, they weren't looking for a one-to-one match of Billy Kometz, but they did want something that captured the same spirit of the character or of the original actor's performance. And the way that I treat it is, I need to look up the other characters I voiced, because I know I ended up voicing a few others once I got into it. So I'm going to hop
you
onto my
vo-
BTVA real quick.
Okay.
Boruto.
It was Rokuro and Iwana.
Iwana, yes. Rokuro was fun. I really enjoyed Rokuro. I
was
liked
a
his little
villain.
story arc. So originally it was just a casting call to do a voice replacement for Metal Lee. And then obviously, as you know, I happened to book the role. And then thankfully, once I was on the show, I managed, well, not managed, but it is fairly common that if you're not voicing one of the principal characters of a show, it's very common that studios will have you voice a couple other side characters as well, especially if those characters do not interact with the other character. There were not, I don't think, many, if any, cases that Rokuro spoke with or in the same scene as Metal Lee. Feel free to correct me on that.
Nah, he wasn't.
Right. So, and that's just making the most of the studio's time. Like if they have me in for a 2-hour session, to give you an idea about the industry, most contracts stipulate a 2-hour minimum. In non-union shows, which I believe Boruto was non-union. Let me double check this. Checking my email real quick. It was long enough ago that I don't know anymore. But for non-union, there is a Scouts honor agreement that sessions pay you a minimum of 2 hours. So if a client would otherwise only have like 30 minutes of content for Metal Lee, they may say, "Hey, we're gonna only record you for an hour, but we're gonna do 30 minutes of Metal Lee. We're gonna have you voice some NPC characters or side characters in a couple other scenes, and that'll take up 10 minutes. And for these last 20 minutes, we have a recurring character, but he never interacts with Metal Lee. So we're going to have you take care of that, and that'll cover these episodes in this next volume." So it's about, obviously making the most efficient use of their time and the money that they're already going to be paying you. So that how I got involved was the voice match, but then obviously they found ways to include me as other characters since I have some vocal range that I could make use of, and that's how I ended up getting to return as Iwana and Rokuro.
Did you look back at Billy's work as Metal Lee?
They did provide audio references of Billy Kometz for me to listen to, and that's part of why I tried to keep some of the raspiness that Billy provided to the original character. I liked that Metal Lee was very gung-ho and confident, but still had that kind of, I don't want to call it squeaky, but he had that kind of, not the rough and tumble rasp, but like the guy who gets himself in over his head rasp because he's so headstrong that he acts first and thinks about the difficulty or the consequences later on. Tough. That's right. Right. So tough with double F because he's not actually tough. He's just tough. So I did pull inspiration from it. Yes.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
You said Metal Lee and confident.
Well, I noticed.
I don't know about Metal Lee and confident.
Well, that's what I'm saying. No. When we say tough with double F, we mean like he wants to be tough, but he doesn't
like
exhibit
a poser. He's a poser, kinda.
I wanted to mention, looking at Billy's was more like fun, more childlike, and then yours, Sean, is for Metal is more a little bit more mature for Metal, but it's still fun. And I really liked Billy's as well. And
for sure. I still wish it was him voicing him to this day.
Yeah. But you've done really good, and I hope they include you in some more stuff with Two Blue Vortex.
Thank you.
I noticed your characters aren't in Ninja Storm Connections, and we interviewed Michael Schwabe, the voice actor for Kawaki, and he was in Connections, so we got to talk about that. But I know
cool.
you've done games. Can you tell us the process of games and how they work? Is it just the same thing where
sure
you just schedule with the studio?
It can depend on the genre of game. Like, for example, if it were something like, Boruto, you said Ninja Connections is what it's called?
Yeah.
So a lot of the development work was probably already completed in Japan, including the voice recording. So in that case, it is somewhat similar to anime where the Japanese audio already exists and there's different layers. There's cases where it's like, we don't need to refer to the Japanese audio at all. You can just go wild with this, but we'll play the reference so you have an idea of the emotional intensity and context. There may be what is called a timestamp limit where it's like, hey, the Japanese audio is, it runs about 5 seconds long. So the English audio can be between 4.8 and 5.2 seconds long, but it has to be around the same length because it's either an automatically progressing audio file or it's just the way that the system is set up. And then there are cases where if the character's lips are synced, they may say, okay, the audio file is 5 seconds long, but the character talks like this, or it's like talking. And they're like, so we've written the line as best we can, so those pauses seem natural, but you need to pause and speak at about the same pacing as the Japanese line, because otherwise your character is going to be talking when the lips aren't moving. So that is where it is similar to the dubbing process. Where it is different is in anime, as you know, the visuals are usually already established. We are following along to the visuals. And so it has to happen exactly as it happens in the show. In video games, it is often the case that except for pre-rendered cutscenes, a lot of lines are circumstantial, where it's like, oh, this line plays when a character gets hit, or this line plays when a character uses their ultimate. So it is, as long as it fits within the window of time that the animation would happen, there's more flexibility, not only in the how long it takes to deliver the line, but how the line is said. So anime tends to be very straightforward, where it's there's only really one or two ways that you can deliver it based on the visuals on screen. With the game, I'll often have a script that's just lines of text and I don't have any visuals, and the client has to describe to me, okay, this happens at this point in the game, or this happens under this circumstance. Give us some variations because the character may be hit in the leg or in the head or in the shoulder, and if we have different collision coding based on where they're hit, then it's going to play a different audio file.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely sounds like it takes a lot of skill and patience. That's a thank you for sharing the process of that. That's amazing.
Just adding a plus one on that. There are some actors for that reason who prefer video game voice acting to anime. Not saying that any one opinion is more correct than others, but I know that there's actors who like, I enjoy video game voice acting because I'm not hard limited by the amount of time I have to say the line most times, and so I'm allowed to give a performance that I authentically feel. I can pause and stop and stutter and stuff like that, versus anime where it's like, anime is a test of your skills in being able to say the words correctly and say them with purpose, but also say them in a very specific time frame, and it's very technically intense, which is funny because anime is still one of the lowest paying forms of voice acting in the entire industry. And it led to some ironic, questions of like, if I go into an anime session for Boruto where I'm screaming attacks as Metal Lee for 4 hours, it pays like almost half as much as if I go into a video game session as Indiana Jones or a Western hero protagonist and just talk in a grizzled voice like this for 4 hours. You know what I mean?
Wow. So according to Behind the Voice Actors, and I'm sure you've done more than this, but it says that you've done 61 shows, 7 movies, and 81 games. You've been in shows like ReZero, JoJo, Dandadan, VeggieTales, Demon Slayer, One Punch Man.
Wide range, isn't it?
Yeah, Pokemon, Mortal Kombat, and Gundam. And something that stood out to me was that you were Spider-Man and Peter Parker in Marvel Avengers, and you have quite a nice portfolio there. But Spider-Man is pretty cool that you've got to play Spider-Man.
I think that was like the I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't a MOBA, but it was like a event updates. It was the one that Square Enix made for consoles, where like every week or two there were new events that you could play.
Live service.
Live service. Thank you. Yeah.
I would have thought that would be Yuri because you were talking about Yuri earlier. Normally, isn't Yuri like always Spider-Man and always
I was
Peter?
so prepared for that too. When I went in for the audition, that same fear was going through my body
You're
because
just gonna
I'm
come
like,
in and take the role.
yeah, why wouldn't they just get Yuri or someone else? And like even when I walked out of the session, Robbie Damon was waiting to go in to do his audition next. Huh?
Mitsuki?
Yes. Hold on.
Yeah,
Robbie
Damon.
Mitsuki.
That's crazy. So Mitsuki, Sasuke, and Metal Lee were trying to play Superman or Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I remember saying, "Hey, man, are you going in for the same thing? Okay, I hope you have a good time. Go kill it." And as I walked away, I was thinking in my head like, "Oh, he's going to do such a good job once he gets cast for Spider-Man." But I think part of it that helped in my case, and that's not to say he didn't give a good performance. The client just opted to go with me. Was the scenario that they described was that Peter Parker / Spider-Man was trying to find his sense of belonging with the rest of the Avengers crew, and I think the description was like he was just fresh out of college and also very new to joining the Avengers and joining their base of operations. And so I looked at the fact that I was so doubtful of my own ability and being like, why am I here when they have folks like Yuri and Robbie and Josh Keaton and stuff like that? And then I went, hey, I bet you Spider-Man's feeling exactly the same way, where he's going, what am I doing here with Captain America and Thor and Black Widow and all of these established superheroes who have like amazing powers and have saved the world multiple times? Who am I? Do I even belong here? So I leaned into that doubt and that need for self-confidence and said, what if I play Spider-Man as someone who wants to do a good job, but is still dealing with the fact that he doesn't feel like he belongs to be with these people? And I think that helped give it that kind of new, naive, kind of coming into his own rite of passage approach that might have stuck out to the director in particular and made them go, oh, we really like this interpretation.
Mm. And I wanted to ask you, Sean. Could you please say, "Hey, Sean Chiplock, welcome to the Board of Podcast," but as Metal Lee?
As Metal Lee. Okay, I
Yeah.
gotta look up my Metal Lee.
Okay.
I gotta look up like a voice reference because it's been so long since I've done it.
I also wondered how your Peter Parker Spider-Man was too.
Peter Parker Spider-Man was pretty close to. So when I have a high energy voice, I sound up here. But when I'm like really tired and just kind of talking like I need to sleep, I tend to be lower pitch. So Peter Parker, Spider-Man in Marvel's Avengers was actually pretty close to what you're hearing here. Where it's like, hey guys, sorry I'm late. Like he's kind of on the younger side. Let's see. What do we have any references for Metal Lee? Do we have anything easily accessible? I don't want to. This is what I get worried about because. So what? Well, this also provides some interesting insight. Generally, when we come in for a session, one of the first things that the client will do. Also, someone in chat, if you are able to find one, I am looking at the live chat for the podcast, so feel free to post a link. I will be super happy to listen to that. But generally, when we go in for a session, especially if it's for a character we've already played before, the client will often play voice references. They will either take lines from the last session that we did or from the very first session that we did, and they'll have us do what's called a listen and repeat, where they go, just listen to the line, repeat it back exactly the same way, because I will have the muscle memory to go, ooh, okay, I know that I would have done this with my throat or with my tongue or with my voice to make it sound like this, and that helps me get back into the character voice before we do the performance. So it's very, very common that they will provide us some sort of reference, and we're not just because otherwise there's the risk I would come in after 6 months of not doing anything, and they're like, "All right, let's just hop into it." And I'm like, "Great, what did I do last time?" All right, so it's hey, this is Sean Chiplock, and you're listening to the Boruto podcast. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, let me listen to this.
Well, that might be Billy.
I think that's Billy.
Yeah.
Oh, rest in peace.
Do you want me to just base it off of this and just do my best match for it?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Hey, this is Sean Chiplock, and you're listening to the Boruto podcast.
Oh wow, dude. That was amazing. That shocked me. Jaw dropped. Michael Suave also made my jaw drop too in the last one.
And you know what was really cool in that moment was in my head, I had practiced it as, hey, this is Sean Chiplock, and you're listening to the Boruto podcast. But the way that I went like, this is Sean Chiplock, and you're listening to the Boruto podcast. I didn't think about how I was going to deliver it that way. But as I got into the character's personality, it just naturally happened. Like I could see Metal Lee he would kind of talk like this, because he's trying to make a case for himself. So,
have you ever played or voiced Sonic?
No, but I have had people tell me that I could do it. Come on, Tails.
That's what I was about to say. Just like it.
Wow.
From the Sonic X era, best Sonic ever.
Dude, if you ever played Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, I did that story mode so often. Like, man, this is boring. No food or movies? I'm out of here. Try and keep up. And then, of course, it's like, on the final battle where it's like, before this is over, I'll show you the true power of chaos control. And then there's the forest scene where it's like, I found you, faker. I think you're the fake one around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough to be my fake. I'll make you eat those words. So...
That's cruel, dude. You got some talent, man. You know it. You're really good, bro. You do. I'm glad you're doing what you do, and that you're part of it, and that you're here with us in the Boruto community.
You.
They love you here, man.
Speedy, I see he's saying I have like 1,000 voices. I want to voice Big the Cat. I want to be the guy who walks and goes, "Hey, has anyone seen Froggy?" Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, he's really good. I'm just reading the chat here.
Sorry,
He's got 1,000 voices. Okay. So Watch Boruto, we're gonna move on to your questions, and then after Watch Boruto's questions, we just have some words from X, Telegram, but mainly we have questions from our Discord server here.
Mhm.
So, but Watch Boruto, you want to go ahead with your questions?
Yeah. So, what's the difference between voicing a main character and a side character, other
So,
than the
go ahead.
workflow?
So here's the secret, you all. In terms of payment, I know that's not all you're asking about, but I'm starting with this for a reason. In
Yeah.
terms of payment, there is no difference. So a lot of people
Oh, yeah?
who get into voice acting are like, "Oh, I want to voice the main character in the show because that's how I get the most money." And it is true that if you happen to voice major characters, you probably could make more sales at conventions. For example, I don't really get invited to cons for Metal Lee, but a lot of people do know me as D-Luke and Kinger and Subaru and stuff like that. But whether a studio has you in there for 4 hours to record a bunch of side characters, or they have you in there for 4 hours to voice Boruto himself, the payment is still the same. And so that is why I tell people don't focus on trying to voice the main characters. Focus on being good at your job and maybe being versatile, but just being able to do what they're asking of you and do it efficiently, because there have been shows that I never even auditioned in the first place that they hired me on, and the only reason was because they knew that I could cover a bunch of different character voice types all at once, and it just saved them time versus doing auditions for it. There is, if any of you watched I'm Standing on a Million Lives, I voice a female orc queen because they were having trouble finding just the right voice profile for it. And the engineer goes, just bring in Chiplock because I've heard this guy do a bunch of different voices. I'm confident he could figure something out that works for this character. So they just offered me the chance without me even knowing the series existed. I kind of sidetracked, but what was they were asking how does voicing
What's
main
the
character and side character differ?
yeah?
Like I mentioned before, typically if you are voicing like the main or major character of a series, you probably are only going to voice that character because they're going to be in so many different scenes that you run the risk of talking to yourself. Good example of this is in ReZero. I have only ever voiced Subaru to the best of my knowledge. And that's because so much of the show revolves around him. It would be very strange otherwise. That doesn't mean it's always the case. Like, for example, I did voice both Rivali and Teba in The Legend of Zelda, and anyone who played Age of Calamity knows they have more than a couple scenes where they are talking to each other. So that is just up to, oh man, there's the Ara farming gif again. I've been seeing that all over the place. I'm trying to think of one more major difference. Or another example is because I saw someone mention JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I do voice Guido Mista, and I voice one other character in the series other than the Bullets. But that was because, one, those two characters never interacted with each other, and two, the second character gets killed partway through the series, so we didn't have to worry about, it being a running thing. So I would say that's the major difference between voicing a main and a side character. But the recording process, the audition process, the payment, all of it is pretty much the same. The only real difference you're going to see is in the after the show is out thing of like which characters are more popular, which characters get invited to conventions a lot. But that's not related to the voiceover industry itself. That's the convention industry.
Mm. Oh. Why is it so bad to talk to yourself? You said, you run the risk of. Why is it? Is that
just? I mean, I wouldn't say it's inherently bad, but
Hey.
it's just something that clients try to avoid because if an actor, for example, has a very distinct way of talking or they have a similar style of performance, or God forbid you have them voicing a bunch of different characters that, let's say that there's a mass group scene where they all end up talking to each other, it just runs the risk of something seeming off. It's hard to describe, but while I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it, imagine if you're watching a show and you see three characters talking to each other and you realize they're all the same guy. Some people might get the idea and be like, wow, this must be a low budget show, or they don't care about it. Like, not even necessarily all those reasons make sense, but as long as you're going to be working with a number of people, it just looks and sounds better if you have everyone that's taking part in a scene be voiced by someone different because it adds different chemistry. It allows for different voice types to be represented. It just works, you know? For example, it's why some events may ask for like a suit and tie event, or maybe it doesn't require tuxedos, but they ask you not to wear sneakers or ripped jeans or stuff like that, where it's not violating anything, and you probably wouldn't even get kicked out of the event for not wearing the dress a code that they were requesting. Like they say, if they say suit and tie recommended, you don't have to wear it, but people are probably going to give you strange looks and you're going to feel out of place. And there's just going to be that weirdness of like, this is wrong. This shouldn't be the way that it is. And so I apply that. I think they apply it the same way to doing multiple voices, where it's like, there's nothing saying we can't have this guy voice all 4 of the characters in this scene, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't work.
Okay. Because
Got
I
a
was
point.
wondering, like,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be something you would want to do though, as a test of your skill? Like, hey, get me a scene where I could talk to another version of me, where it's anher character, and then let me see my voice profile.
Right. I'm never in a position to make that kind of request. But what I will say is that when I was talking earlier about how I don't consider myself as much of a celebrity as other actors, but I do know that I'm working a lot, I take pride in my versatility and my vocal range, as people in chat have already been pointing out. And I do know that there are cases where it has made it easier for a client to hire me because they go, oh, we know that if we hire Sean Chiplock, we can get 2 hours of content out of him. I'm trying to think of a good example that happened recently. Because a lot of the stuff I'm doing is recurring roles. I was thinking of a case where they're like, okay, so we've gotten all the major characters recorded, but now we know that there's like an old man in this episode. There's a school teacher in this other episode. We have a couple scenes where this student is commenting on like the school festival that's happening. And if they can hire one person to do those 3 or 4 voices, then they only have to pay one person the 2-hour fee instead of hiring 3 or 4 actors and then paying each of them a 2-hour session fee. And that goes back into the, the time economy and the money efficiency sort of thing. So yes, I really do enjoy when I get to showcase my range, but I don't get to force that. And I just see it as a welcome opportunity of, hey, I here's a neat little chance I have to go, hey, not only am I good at the job you hired me for, but if we finish ahead of schedule, that's another example. If they bring me in for a character, because I've had this happen as well. If they bring me in for a character and they say, we have 2 hours of content and we expect we'll need about 1 hour and 50 minutes to record this stuff. I've had it happen where we were so efficient that we were done with that character's lines in 1.5 hours. And they went, wow, we have a lot of spare time. If you want to go, you can go. But if you're willing, we have this other character that has about 20, 30 lines, and that should take about 20 minutes. Do you want to take a stab at it? And I will always say yes, because I love getting to play more characters. So now, not only have I finished ahead of schedule, I have saved them time and money because they got a whole additional character recorded that they didn't expect to have to record. My payment is still going to be the same. I don't get extra for voicing the second character, but I tell you what, that client is probably leaving the session going, oh my God, Sean finished ahead of schedule, and that's one less character we have to worry about getting recorded. We're going to remember that next time we're in a similar situation, and it has paid off for me.
Okay. Yeah, because I was not wondering, but I was thinking, you said, it's not don't do this. It's just a frowned upon kind of thing where it's like, don't go to what'd you say, a suit and tie event?
A suit and tie event wearing ripped jeans and like tennis shoes and stuff like that.
And tennis shoes.
The main reason is because maybe it's better to look at it this way. When folks are preparing the scripts for an episode, the localizer, the translator, the people who are setting up the recording session, they're going to have already seen the episode. They have to mark every single one of the lines, whether it's a Walla line or an audience line or a background character line. If someone talks, there needs to be some sort of code written into the script that goes, hey, this person says this at this timestamp. So if they already know what characters are speaking, what they are saying, and when they show up in the episode, if they already know, okay, Meadow Lee shows up in this scene, in these scenes, and this character shows up in these scenes, then it makes no difference whether they say, okay, well, we're going to have the same actor voice these three characters who end up talking to each other, or if they say we're going to have them voice three characters who never talk to each other in the episode. They are equally capable of doing either option. But of the two, doesn't it just make more sense to have the actor voice different characters who never talk to each other? To you guys, does it make sense?
I would have thought it would be the opposite. I don't know. Just because, you know what it is, I think? I think it's because Shadow Clone is in Naruto and in Boruto. It's literally them talking to themselves. There was a scene in Boruto. Metal Lee wasn't in it. Neither your other characters that you voiced,
Right.
but it was Boruto, as in Amanda C. Miller, or now Benita Barra.
Right.
She made him a couple of clones, like 3, and then she started talking to herself, and I was like, damn. That's skillful right there, you know what I mean? But voice range is also another way to show it, for sure.
I think another potential reason is just because they want to avoid the risk of the characters talking to each other more often in the future. A really good example is, did either of you watch Beastars, or are you Beastars fans?
Yeah, but not in English.
No.
In season 1, Bryce Papenbrook voiced both Tao and I forget the Kibi. He voiced Tao, the Black Leopard or Black Panther, and he voiced Kibi, who was either an aardvark or an anteater or something like that. And in season 1, Tao was a recurring character, but Kibi was not. Kibi was just a small side role who showed up a couple of times, and so they had Bryce say, or they told Bryce, hey, we're going to have you voice Tao as your major character, but we're also going to have you play this recurring character named Kibi. In season 2, however, Kibi and Tao end up having a very important series of scenes together. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but Kibi, he doesn't become a main character, but he does get an upgrade from just being, a slightly recurring side character. Well, now there's this awkward situation where Bryce would have to be talking to himself during some very heightened and very emotional, tender scenes. And like I said, it can just be really weird if you have the same guy playing both sides of a conversation. It just doesn't sit right. So when I ended up getting involved in Beastars starting in season 2, they said, hey, we are going to have you take over as Tao, because now that Kibi has become a more established character, we can't have them talking to each other and have it be the same person. So you're going to voice a bunch of these side characters in season 2 and Tao, and we're going to just have Bryce focus on Kibi and give him some other additional roles to make up for the fact that he doesn't have Tao. And so that's how they fixed that, where maybe when season 2 didn't even exist yet, it wasn't a concern because Tao and Kibi didn't talk to each other that often. But then season 2 gets made and they go, oh, shoot, hold on. Suddenly these characters are very much involved with each other, and it just doesn't feel right to have the same guy voicing both sides.
Okay.
I think it's more important that it's a good point that they don't want people talking to each other, because people get really emotional and get really deep into the story and connected with these characters with anime. But when we look at cartoons, SpongeBob or Smiling Friends, especially Smiling Friends, a lot of it is just the same. It's the same people who even just made the show. It's the same people talking to each other,
There's an interesting point to be made about that, because I feel like you think about South Park, where it is 2 guys doing almost all of the voices, and eventually you do run into a point where it's like, oh, this character just sounds like this other character, or is extremely close. But with those, the focus isn't on the voices, it's on the comedy, it's on the comedic timing, on the beat. With Smiling Friends, there's the kind of the vibe of like everyone is talking at like a normal speaking pace, and the humor comes from the situation that they're in. And just the mode of speaking. Whereas in anime, it's a lot more intimate, I would say. It is the relationships between the characters and the developments that happen. You're paying a lot more attention to the words that are being said, and not so much the action that is happening in most cases. South Park is something different. You don't well, I apologize if I gave a bad example.
I didn't even realize it was 1 guy or 2 guys.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah. Oh, you're saying it was something different, where it's like you don't even realize that like hundreds of characters are being voiced by like a small team of like 5 people. Yeah. I get that.
I didn't know that.
So,
Same with SpongeBob, you said?
You think
Or you don't know?
so? I don't
'Cause
know.
I feel like definitely I would
Oh,
know
it's like
SpongeBob is voicing somebody else.
it's like sometimes they just have them do multiple characters, background characters, side characters, but it's the
No,
same people.
that analogy you used, the ripped jeans and sneakers to suit and tie, reminded me of when I literally did that. I went to
Oh
not a suit and tie
no!
event. It was more like a business casual,
Oh
not suit and
no!
tie, but blouse, button
Yeah.
up, maybe a little handkerchief, whatever. But when I went, I think it was just some what do they call that? Networking. It was some networking event,
Mhm.
and I met Kimberly Spencer, the wife of Spike Spencer, voice
Uh-huh.
actor. He voice act for Enogen. Now it's Xander Mobus, I think, that does Enogen. But I remember being there, and then I think she noticed that I was like out of place because I literally was not in a suit and tie. I was in ripped jeans and some sneakers.
Right.
And then somehow I think it got to her talking about her husband, and then she said Spike, and I was like, hold on, Spike Spencer? Like your last name is Spencer,
Uh-huh.
your husband named Spike. You talking about the voice actor Spike? And she said, yeah, that's my husband. And I was like, oh, for real? Because that's Enogen from Boruto.
Oh, that's so
And then I
fun.
was like, damn, what a small world.
That's
'Cause
so fun.
it could have just been anybody. I could have not went because I didn't have a suit and tie, but I was nah, let me go. And then I
Right.
happened to meet Kimberly Spencer, the wife of Spike Spencer, as
Right.
in voice actor of Enogen. I tried to get an autograph, he wasn't there, but oh well.
I'm sorry.
And because I do have a Funko of Enogen. It's a couple of Funkos of Enogen, or
Hell
no,
yeah.
one Enogen.
That's really
Oh,
cool. I'm glad you got to have the
yep,
experience.
yep. And all because I went without a suit and tie. But yeah, that another question that I had was, so we've talked about the differences, and then also um what you would call it. What would you say it would be? Maybe the reason why to not voice another person, but would you want to voice another person in Boruto
I would.
again?
I mean, on the one hand, I always love having an opportunity to come back and voice more stuff. But
Mhm.
another reason why I enjoy it, and I think this is me being slightly selfish, is I like you mentioned earlier. I love having the chance to explore my range, and folks had mentioned JoJo, folks had mentioned Boruto, folks have mentioned, ReZero. Everyone in this audience has some overlap and some unique shows or games or other projects that are really important to them. And because my life is already so freaking busy, it's very rare that I get the chance to really sit down and watch an entire show or play an entire game. But for me, when I voice in something, because I have to look at the script, because I have to look at the episodes, through my work, I get to experience these games and these projects where I might not have had the free time to do it otherwise. And that enables me to connect with those communities where I go, hey, I may not know everything about Boruto, but I know stuff that Metal Lee did. I know the stuff that what's his face? I'm forgetting again. Hold on, I'm
Which
looking it
one?
up. That Rokuro
Iwana
did.
or Rokuro? Oh,
Yeah,
Rokuro.
Rokuro. I can experience that and talk about with the community. And here's a perfect example. Here's a perfect example. So I'm going to post because I just had this finished yesterday. I'm not even joking. This is my updated convention horizontal banner of this isn't all the roles I've ever played, obviously, but this is a small spattering of roles that I think someone would recognize if they came up to my table. This is my updated convention banner. I'm posting it in the podcast live chat. Look at that.
Okay,
Damn.
let's check it out.
Look at that. That's like a portion. That is like
Is that
not
Breath of the
even
Wild?
huh?
That's
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild right there.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's Breath of the
damn.
Wild in that upper right corner. So think about that. Think about how many different characters are on this banner, and think about how any person could come up to my table, and as long as they recognize one of the characters on that banner, I can have a conversation with them. Whether it's about the
Wait,
series or about the character or about the events that happen, And for me, that is my dopamine, is to be
I
able
don't
to
see.
go ahead.
I don't see Metal Lee on here.
He unfortunately, so it is based on two things. For convention stuff, it's based on the relevancy of the character in terms of how recent the show was, or it can also be like what roles are a lot of people talking about. So for example, even though Breath of the Wild is almost 10 years old at this point, oh my god, I can't believe I'm bringing that up. Even though Breath of the Wild is almost a decade old, people still talk about Rivali and Teba. Beastars is still somewhat relevant because we have season 3 coming out pretty soon. So in this case, Metal Lee, unfortunately for me, I know that we're all super passionate about it, and I was very honored to be able to take over the helm since Billy Kometz could no longer be with us. But when it comes to the convention scene, he's not a character that most people tend to bring up. So I had to focus on the characters that folks are going to talk about. But I get surprised every so often.
Okay, I got you. Watch Boruto, you have more questions?
Nah, just one more. Have you
Okay.
ever met any of the voice actors from Boruto? Either doing anything for Boruto
yeah.
or beside?
So the answer is yes. Of course, I have met some of the other voice actors. I assume you mean the other English voice actors. Yeah. So there are who voices the main characters? Is that Amanda Miller? Or is that
Boruto?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Amanda
Amanda
C.
C.
Miller, isn't
Miller.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I've talked to Amanda Miller, I talked to Tiana, who's voiced some characters. I think we're friends on Discord. I've run into Robbie. I have run into Kyle A. Bear. I've run into, various other people, especially when we go to conventions. We'll often see each other and have conversations. But what I think the real question you might be asking is, have I met these actors in the booth working on the show, in the process of creating the show? And ironically, voiceover is a very lonely career in many regards when it comes to my own colleagues. For stuff like Western animation or maybe original feature film, yes, they will have a group of actors recording in the same room. That's just the way the process has been done for a long time. But for anything involving dubbing, whether that's video games or anime or pretty much anything that isn't original Western animation, we have assigned session times. So, for example, my session might be on Tuesday from 2 to 4 p.m. And I'll show up at 1:45 so that I have time to make myself tea. And I might run into Robbie in the green room, who is, finishing up with his session before heading out, and go, "Hey, Robbie, how you doing? Yeah. How are the kids? How's the weather? Blah, blah, blah. How's the wife?" But once I'm actually in the booth, it's just me on the recording side. And then on the other side of the room, it's literally a separate room, but they're usually connected by a window or something like that. On the other side of the room is the engineer, the director, maybe a client from the studio if it's the first episode and they just want to sit in and make sure everything is going the way it should be. But in terms of actually doing my job, it's very isolated. And so whether or not I meet or interact with a lot of my colleagues really doesn't have anything to do with the industry. It's more of a social element. It's, am I going to rap parties? Am I going to, cast events? Am I hanging out at a coffee shop? There's a well-known coffee shop here in Burbank that Kira Buckland and Casey Mongilo and a whole bunch of other people tend to go to every single day. Also because a lot of them live in Burbank, so it's very easy for them to just go there on a whim. I don't live near the city. I'm 40 miles out, so I typically only drive into the city when I am coming in for work, and when I'm done, I leave and I go home because I'm introverted as hell, ironically enough. So yeah, I have met them and I do know them and I'm even friends with some of them. But in terms of how often I interact with them, it's actually pretty rare outside of industry events like cast rap parties or just random sporadic social meetings when we're out and about in the city.
Well, I wanted to say, if you ever run into them or you're friends with some of them, we are welcome to having them on here on our podcast. We would love to invite them. It's hard for. I've been trying. I was the one that emailed you. I've been emailing some agencies and stuff, and it's hard to reach some of these people. So, if you want to, or if they're interested in doing stuff like this, they are welcome.
All right. Well, I will tell you first and foremost, I think the way that you're going about it is one of the better ways that you can go about it because to basically give you insight into it, like I can vouch for, you know, an interviewee or a podcast and say, hey, I just did a podcast with them. It was really fun. But
Yeah.
when if you think about it in terms of the actor side, if you think about how many interviews I might do a year, um, voice actors are probably getting requests like that very often. And I'm trying to think. I don't want this to come off as saying, "Oh, you're not important enough." So don't, please don't let my ADHD ruin this for me.
No, you good.
Um, when I think about my day-to-day schedule, because you all are actually my second of 4 interviews that I am doing today. And
Damn.
I'm sure you knew when we were talking about when we were scheduling this in the first place, I said, hey, can we actually do this at 2 p.m. instead of the recommended time of 12? Because I have another thing starting at 10 and I'm worried it's going to run overtime. And I usually have to cram these in on the weekends because on weekdays, I am not available because I'm busy with my stream. I'm busy with auditions. I'm busy with sessions. Talking during an interview is still using my vocal cords. And if I talk for too long, I could wear myself out and then I can't do the auditions or the sessions like I need to.
Mm.
And so it's often about vocal health maintenance. It's, can I afford to do this without putting myself in dire straits later on? Then that's if I even have the chance to make the time available in the first place. To give you another example, I might have mentioned that I wanted to try and get this done by mid-March. That is because after March 21st, the next time that I am not traveling over the weekend to a convention is the middle of May. I am traveling to a con every single weekend between Thursday and Sunday, sometimes Wednesday to Monday for an international con. Between mid-March and mid-May, I'm traveling every single weekend. And so that means when I come back from those events, I'm still scrambling to fit in time for sessions, for auditions, for stream, for my own personal stuff I want to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if for a lot of cast members, they are not not interested in participating, but they have to be mindful of the time commitment that it requires and perhaps even their own comfort level. So for example, you know, I know enough about Boruto that I feel like I could do an interview of this sort, but I've had people ask me to do interviews for like future Trunks in Dragon Ball Super, and I go, respectfully, I had 2 lines and 1 effort as future Trunks. I do not think you can get a 1 to 2 hour interview out of it. Or maybe it was a show where maybe it was a show that was so old or a character that I just don't remember enough about. For example, I voiced Thad in Murder Drones, and I know that there's a big fan base for Murder Drones. I would even say that Murder Drones might be more popular than Boruto, just speaking in terms of audience size. And yet, I would probably not do an interview for my role as Thad in Murder Drones because I don't know a lot about that show, and I haven't had any time to sit down and watch it. So I would feel really nervous trying to talk about something that I have no familiarity with outside of the job that I did. So,
Okay, so let's move on to the last bit of questions. I guess like speed run questions. And also, Sean, I want to say thank you for spending the time here with us today in your schedule. So from Telegram, we have the Boruto Telegram that's part of the Boruto Club. They asked, have you ever thought you could have done a scene a different way in the Boruto anime when you were filming?
I mean, obviously, I feel like the answer would be yes, because as one of the important lessons I want people to recognize is that there is no stopping point in life when it comes to learning, especially in a creative career like voiceover. You can establish a strength of yours and you can become competent and consistent, but the industry is always evolving. It's always changing. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you two?
I'm 25.
25. So you were oh god. So you were born after the 90s. Well, do you still feel like well, here's a perfect example. Do you feel like in the early 2000s that there was still very much that Y2K new wave of the future affect that people were putting on for advertisements and radio advertisements in particular, where
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're saying.
Or
Y2K.
We grew up with like flip phones, not even like, I grew up with like flip phones and phone in the wall in the kitchen.
Or it would be like, maybe it wouldn't be like an epic toy where it's like, Nokia has now, check out Nokia with its new flip technology and ability to connect to the internet and stuff like that, where it's like, this is cool and we're part of the future. And now folks don't really do that kind of performance. Now, whenever they do an advertisement for a phone, they go, the new iPhone 16. It will marry your wife, have your kids for you, and start a 401k in your name. Or it's like, this is sophisticated and it's rich and it's really important. And they wouldn't be able to, that's not the trend that they were doing in the early 2000s. So I'm getting ahead of myself again. But the idea is that you should always be learning. You should always be open to trying new things. You should always be open to expanding your skill set, because when you coast, you kill yourself. When you stagnate is when you stop improving and other people are going to surpass you. So I could probably listen to my scenes now as Metal Lee and go, oh, if I were in the booth now, I would have done it this way, or I could think of a more interesting or fun way to deliver this line. But that's why you have to just live in the moment and go, based on what I know, based on my current skill set, based on the direction that the client is giving me, I'm going to do the best job that I can in this given moment. And a lot of it is also partly because now we know things about the character that we might not have known before. You have to work with the knowledge that you have and the information that you're given. A perfect example is when I was voicing Rivali, I knew so little about his background story before the DLC came out, because for whatever reason, Nintendo wouldn't tell me about the stuff we learned in the DLC. But when I saw the DLC scenes and I understood what got Rivali to where he was in the main game, I was like, oh my God, this makes so much more sense now. If only I had known this, it would have influenced how I delivered those lines the first time that I went through. So the job still got done, but time and experience and knowledge will always change our interpretations of things. There are characters whose performances I'm extremely proud of that are like 10, 15 years old by now, that I don't think I'd be able to give that same delivery if I were to do that performance in the booth tomorrow, whether because I'm older or my voice print has changed or the way that I approach those kinds of lines changes. So yes, I think everybody has scenes they wish they could go back and do, but companies are on schedules, projects are on deadlines. We only have as much information as we have. So as actors, our job is to just speak as much truth as we can. We find what we look into the character, we find what about them we empathize with, we think about what motivates them and what drives them, and we interpret that, and we give our best interpretation that we can, and trust that we gave a good delivery, because human beings are not perfect. We stumble over our words, we try to explain something and then realize we didn't really give a good analogy, so we try something else, and that messiness is what makes things feel real.
And also, another question from Telegram. What was your favorite Metal Lee scene or memorable scene that you've done?
I actually think I prefer his casual scenes more than his action scenes, because when everyone's in an action scene, they're all mostly doing the same thing. They're using their powers. They're trying to get a one-up on the enemy. Well, what are people like when they're not in danger? That's when you get the real character development moments of, is Metal Lee nervous? Does he use comedy to mask his nervousness? Is he a real go-getter? Does he value friendship? Is he someone who is a prankster because he wants people to remember him? Or is he a prankster because he thinks people are too serious and need to lighten up? And I really, really like those moments where we get to see people just being themselves instead of having to put on a brave face or put on a mask because of what the situation demands of them.
Okay. Now we're gonna head on to the Discord questions.
Okay.
And there's about like 10 or 12 here, maybe more. Okay. So first one's from President. They say, which feature anime character would you like to be the voice actor for?
Which character would I want to be the voice actor for?
Yeah.
I know that people usually go, oh, I want to be this major character in this major franchise, and I'm sure everyone wants to be a part of a Mega Man game or a Sonic game or something to that degree. I really wish I could be a Digimon tamer or even one of the Digimon. Something
Wow.
when I was doing my auditions for Pokemon Detective Pikachu, they actually had me audition to be the voice of a Charmander or a Psyduck or I think an Eevee evolving into a Flareon at one point. Although obviously I didn't end up booking one of those. But I want to say if I had to pick a named role, what is the anime series about? It's an anime series about a girl, but whenever she does a magical girl transformation, she turns into a really buff guy. Turns into man.
No, I
It's
don't know
called
that.
Magical Girl Ore. Magical Girl
Mm.
Ore. She's a magical girl, but whenever she does her transformation sequence, she turns into a chiseled, ripped guy. I would love to
What?
voice the post transfer. Yeah, it's called Magical Girl Ore. Look it up sometime, or I'll post it in
Okay.
the chat real quick. I really hope that this is. There we go. So I would want to voice the guy after the transformation. I think that would be really fun. But if I didn't have to pick a specific named character, I'm a really big fan of games like Etrian Odyssey, where you can create characters and name them and design them and pick their class and stuff like that. And then, or even in like Monster Hunter, where you can pick male voice type A, male voice type B. And I would want to be one of the male voice types because I really like this idea of someone going, oh, I had a choice between what voices I gave my character. And I really think this voice fits the character that I created. And it allows me to like tag along with you on your adventure, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Okay, this question's from Drifting. Who is your favorite character and why? Yeah.
Just in all media?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll do a two-part answer. I'll do because many people ask who's your favorite character that you've voiced, and then I'll also do just in general. I think favorite character that I have voiced, I wouldn't say favorite, but the one that I identify with the most would have to be Subaru. For those who have watched, especially all 3 seasons so far, I mean this in both a good and a bad way. There is so much overlap between Subaru and myself in terms of personality, whether it's how headstrong they are, how passionate they are, their loyalty to their friends, their tendency to get in over their head, their desire to do things the right way, their use of comedy to mask the fear that they have inside. There's so much about that character that I have learned I personally identify with. And that's part of why it's led to such a good performance. I see a lot of people saying, oh, he's so good as Subaru. It's also because I'm not really acting. Subaru is the vessel through which my own fears and insecurities are being portrayed, and it leads to a more authentic performance. In terms of characters in all of media, ooh, there's so many that I could name. I really like Mega Man Volnut in Mega Man Legends. Neil Newbon does such a good job as Astarion in Baldur's Gate 3. I want to think of another example in anime of like just characters in general that are super cool. Um, I also want something that's not like, of course, Cowboy Bebop, because it's super. Like, for example, Edward Elric in Full Metal Alchemist was such an iconic performance. It's it was so unique for the time. It was such a unique experience with like a shorter character who had a short fuse, and it was such a well performed role. And I think that's part of what inspired me to get into the craft. Uh, Light Yagami was someone who really inspired me as well. He was actually a monologue from Death Note, is what I did for one of my first ever professional auditions when I was competing in AX Idol at Anime Expo in 2009. But having a character who could monologue for 2 to 3 minutes straight and you were enraptured the entire time, that's powerful. To have the same character talking for several minutes and your eyes are glued to the screen, that's a special kind of talent.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Next question. This one's from Fatal. Fatal asked, if you had the power to bring back a fictional character that you've voice acted for, that like they killed off or something, which one?
I have
Or
voice acted for.
yeah, but any of them, if they were to kill off a character that you're voicing for, or something happens, like if it's gone, which one would you bring back?
Bucciarati, 100%. That man, That man did not deserve to die. He was super cool, and he was voiced by, I think, Ray Chase. Is that correct? And he was like the linchpin for the rest of the group, and he's super cool, and he deserved to live, and we should have brought him back.
Okay, where is this from?
From JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Wind.
Oh, okay. I haven't watched JoJo.
He gets stingrayed by King Crimson.
Wow. Okay, spoilers for anyone that hasn't watched.
Sorry, spoilers.
He gets speared.
Ray Chase, that is Iwabe. He played Iwabe in Boruto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was correct. Yes, he was Bucciarati in the English dub for JoJo's.
Interesting. So this next question is from Bully number 2. Was there any scene where you got emotional while dubbing?
For Metal Lee or in general?
In general.
Plenty. Oh my god.
I mean, Metal Lee too, really?
Metal Lee. No, I feel like so Boruto. If Naruto was the start of the series and Naruto Shippuden was the time skip, much more serious. For those of you who watch Full Metal Alchemist, you know that the first half of Full Metal Alchemist and the second half of Full Metal Alchemist are like two completely different anime. Where, especially in the original, like 2003 Full Metal Alchemist, the first half is like episode of the week, more comedic, more lighthearted. And then once it went into the second half, it was like depression all the time. And I feel like Naruto, Shippuden, and Boruto are the same way, where Naruto started lighthearted and then slowly got more serious. Shippuden leaned more consistently into the serious, downtrodden appearance. And maybe I'm wrong, but it felt like Boruto tended to lean into the like villain arc of the week or villain arc of the month story. Am I wrong in saying that? Or
you're I don't know. How much have you seen again?
I don't feel like I've seen
metal,
enough,
right?
Especially if there's 200 and how many episodes?
193.
293. So yeah. Maybe I'm just, like I said, this is why sometimes I get nervous about my cred in interviews. But
Two Blue Vortex will be the Shippuden.
Okay. So half credit. But Metal Lee in particular, I feel like he didn't get the same amount of development that other characters got. So I don't think I ever felt emotional as him. But I have had cases where, as Rin Schwarzer or as Subaru, or even as Guido Mista, when reacting to members of his crew, I think all of us can empathize with the desire to belong, the desire to protect people who are important to us, the desire to feel like we are helping or that we're making a situation better. And especially for someone like Subaru, when there's scenes of like, let me tell you what kind of person I really am. I'm weak. I'm useless. I'm being honest about myself because I'm trying to put on this facade, but I know how I really am inside. A lot of people dislike Subaru because he points out qualities that they dislike about themselves, and they don't like have it being put on display as a sign of weakness like that. So
yeah. Well, for the Metal Lee part, right? I think that's maybe also because at the beginning you weren't Metal Lee, right? It was Billy Komet.
That's also true. I didn't get to experience the whole journey to understand where he was. I was just coming in the middle of it.
When exactly did you come in? It was 203 or 211?
It was pretty late into it, yeah. So you raise a very good point. It might have been different if I had been there for the whole journey.
Yeah, because it's definitely more development earlier for Metal than later. Although I would have thought you would have said, because this was a U episode, right? Not Billy. It was Metal Lee seeing Hebi Ichigo die.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? Or no?
Repeat it again.
Metal Lee when Hebi Ichigo died. Remember Hebi Ichigo or no?
Oh yes, yep. I do actually remember that. Mm-hmm.
Because I thought you would have said something like that for the Metal Lee emotional part. It was seeming to be right. It was building us up to they might be a thing at some point, and then
I will take responsibility for that and say I think at that point in time I was still kind of dealing with the fact that Billy was no longer with us. So I was committed to doing the best job that I can do, but in my heart I kind of recognized like for those of you who've watched Avatar, the person who voiced Uncle Iroh ended up passing away, Maki or whoever it was, and they did have an actor, take over for the role. But to this day, that actor says, that role was not mine to have. That was supposed to be the original voice actors, and I'm not going to pretend like that I own this character.
I'm
And
actually a big fan of that actor, by the way.
yeah. So I think I approached it the same way, where it's like, I'm here to do the job. I'm going to try and honor it to the best of my ability. I'm not Billy, but I'm going to try and honor the spirit and the energy that he gave the character. But that means I was so focused on trying to do the job correctly that I wasn't really paying attention as much to what was being said. And that made it harder for me to develop a personal attachment, because as far as I'm concerned, I wish it was Billy's. I wish he was here doing this interview talking about the role. So
I'm hoping they do more anime content with Metal, anyways, because the manga doesn't really include him much.
That's unfortunate.
Do you wish for any character in Boruto to be voiced by you?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I was pretty damn happy with Rokuro. I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed that
whenever I was
section.
listening, as I first watched it in sub. I think most people watched it in sub first, because it takes a year, maybe more, for the dub to catch up.
Sure.
So when I was watching the dub the first time, and then again recently to catch myself up, I was like, damn, this boy Rokuro going in.
I know. If you look at my portfolio, you'll see I voice a lot of, for lack of a better word, jerkwads. And so I kind of have experience with playing the more sassy characters who are like, you're not even worth my time. You hear me? You know what I mean? So, and yeah, Dragon's another example as well. I'm Dragon. Yes. So I have a question for you. What inspires someone to go back and say, okay, I'm going to watch all of this over again just because now it's available in dub? Is it a curiosity to hear what it sounds like in English, or what drives you to go back and say, I want to do all this again, just in a different language?
Well, for me, I just watch it mainly in Japanese. I do enjoy dub Naruto.
Right.
And a lot of people complain about Boruto a little bit, but I like it, but I mainly watch sub.
Right.
But we do go back and watch, especially since we're having you on, and we do the same thing with Kawaki. We go back and watch and listen, and watch Boruto here. He's watched Boruto I don't know how many times, and he's watching in English, and he can tell the exact second something is said.
Right.
Well, maybe not second in English, because in English it's
by the way, as a heads up to everyone in the audience, since we just happen to bring up the topic of sub versus dub, I'm just letting you know now, the vast majority of voice actors, pardon my French, they don't give a shit about sub versus dub. They don't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what
because even if we look at it logistically, yes, even if the sub exists first, they use, if someone's like, oh, I watch the series in sub, I only purchase it in Japanese. That's great, because the company chooses what they're going to do with the money that you spend when you buy access to it in sub. And part of the budget that they use is using that money to get it dubbed so that it can hopefully reach a wider audience. And that can be for accessibility reasons. It could be because someone isn't able to read text that easily and prefers to hear it. It could just be because there's folks who just want to hear stuff in English, and they have a preference for that. So when folks are like, I'm sure you did great, but English dubs suck. I'm only ever going to watch the Japanese with subs. I'm like, thank you for supporting the series, because you watching it is what gives them the money that they need to dub it and allows me to have a job. So please continue watching the show in sub. I invite you to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah. What's up? Watch Boruto?
Oh, well, I was gonna say, for me, right? He asked, why does somebody go back and rewatch after, whether it be dub or sub? Well, it's just because I do it. I don't know. It's a routine now.
Sure.
So I think, as Luke said, right? He said, I don't know how many times I've seen Boruto. I've seen Boruto in its entirety, all 293 episodes.
Oh my God.
About, well, it's only really, 293. You can round that up to 300. Each one is 30 minutes with no ads. It's less. So 30 minutes, 300 divided by 2, because it's 2 per hour.
How
and
many
then
hours is
that'd
that,
be
man?
150 hours. 150 hours is about what? Maybe 6 days, so a week almost.
God
And then a
damn.
week of content you could fit, pretty easily. I think I finished all of Naruto and Shippuden, so about 700 and something episodes.
Jesus.
And over one summer, and I wasn't even trying. I wasn't binging. I just was like, oh, let me
Wasn't
put it on.
even trying, by the way.
So when it got to Boruto, right? Obviously, I'm watching weekly when it comes out. I had to stay up for 5 a.m. because in Japan it's like
sure
6 or 3 p.m. something like that.
Okay.
But so then after that though, once the last episode aired in 2023, I was like, well, now what? I don't know what else to do. There's no more Boruto. It normally comes out on Sundays. It didn't always start coming out on Sundays.
That's
but
so
normally
funny.
I got something to do on a Sunday.
Right.
And then I was like, you know what? Let me just go back and watch. And I went back and watched. And then that became a routine of every new year, literally the start of the new year, January 1st, I would make a spin the wheel thing, like a wheel, and then put all 1 to 293. And I would just say, all right, today, wheel, give me an episode. I spin, it gives me an episode, and I watch it. And normally it ends, depending on if it's a leap year or not, right? It ends around October 20th. Around then it'll end. And then from October 20th to start of the new year, so December 31st to January 1st, I just wait and I'll watch a dub or something. But this year, I'm doing dub because a couple years ago, I was just doing sub, and then I was like, you know what? I gotta watch dub too because
you should do the Spanish dub and the Italian dub. Because dub doesn't automatically mean English.
There is no Spanish dub. There is a Brazil or Portuguese and
you'd watch that
French.
one. I want to know. I want to know how Middle East sounds in Brazilian Portuguese.
I don't know those languages though, so
I think that sounds really fun.
Japanese and
watch it with the English.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's the same as. Oh wait, no, I guess not. It's the same as Japanese. I don't know.
Watch Boruto,
but I'll get to it though. I'm gonna get to it for sure. Because
imagine if Portuguese Rokuro is like the best that character has ever sounded, and we have no idea because we're over here discussing English versus Japanese. What if French Boruto is like actually freaking incredible?
Hey, French Boruto is pretty good though. I heard of it.
It's huge in France. Yeah, it's huge over there. By the way, as of last week, it's also on the Boruto Club and TwoBlueVortex.com under the Ninja Tools section. We have the 24/7 live channel, Boruto channel, and you can watch the series all for free as well on Pluto TV. And there's an official YouTube channel that just dropped like a few days ago. So they're picking up. They're picking up when Two Blue Vortex anime drops. It's gonna be huge. Huge. And yeah, good for you too, because you're gonna get some work here, and we're all gonna be listening to you when it comes out.
Oh, would you want to come back?
Yeah. For another interview?
No, for
to watch
for
it?
another interview and for.
Remind me, what's the timetable of that again? When's it due to come out?
We think they're gonna announce it at the end of the year.
Yeah, because there's a convention over in Japan that they announce a lot of stuff.
It will pretty much depend on what my schedule looks like then, because like, for example, if I look at that point, or if I look at next year right now, everything's wide open. But then the same way that I mentioned that between, like, for example, from mid-March until the end of April, there is currently one day where I don't currently have convention travel or some form of work. April 22nd is the only day so far that I don't have something scheduled where I would be free for personal stuff. Wow. And Lord knows, we've still got a solid month and a half for that to change. So, never say never in my opinion, but I also think it's equally likely that if I don't suck at my job, I may be even busier next year than I am this year.
Did we just get lucky with scheduling with you?
Like I said, it's about flexibility. I mean, I asked what range you were hoping to have it done by. I looked at my own schedule. I was slam packed this week, but Saturday was wide open. So I was like, hey, if we can fit this in on Saturday at 2 p.m., I can make this work. So we did.
Yeah.
So it's not just about that you got me at a good time. It's that we were able to discuss a time that worked for both of us.
Right. Also, there was one last question from the Discord from Extraterrestrial, and they asked, how do you like Metal Lee's design?
Let me bring him up real quick so I can get a good gander at this boy.
Yeah, he is different from Guy and Rockley.
Rock and Guy. All right, let me take a look here. There we go. Perfect example. Ooh. I think Rock Lee is peak design. Metal Lee is
What?
behind him.
Right.
And
Nah.
no?
No.
What? No, I love his
headband
design.
over the waist. Come on now.
It's
Headband
Team
over the
10,
waist.
right? They're on Team 10, right? I love
No,
Denki's
Team 10
also
is
one of
Ino
my-
Shikacho.
What team were they?
I think I
Well,
don't remember. It was,
regardless of team, Denki, Sean, you know Denki?
Yeah.
Denki's also one of my favorite characters.
Is it the
So-
eyes? Is it because of the eyes?
The eyes are different. Yeah, he's got more pointy eyes, more Asian.
Right. Is that why you don't like Rock Lee as much? Is it because of the eye design?
Rockley.
Does he look like a
nah,
terrified
he just,
Oh,
me?
I don't know. I think it's just I like the waistband for sure. Are you looking at the vest or no vest?
Oh, see,
It is a
that
different
might be it
version.
because you're looking at the whole picture with like clothing and outfit, and I'm very much a face person. I'm usually looking
Oh,
at
a
folks'
face.
faces.
Okay. Let me look at face only. Face card.
post it in the
Metal
podcast
Lee
chat.
Face. I don't know. I think it's just a haircut I like better. The haircut, the scarf over the top on the neck.
That is true. That is true. He having the orange scarf is something that sets him apart from the others, and I will agree with you
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. All right. That wraps up our interview here with the legendary. That's right, Sean Chiplock. Thank you, Sean, so much for coming and joining us today.
Thank you. I think according to chat, I lost the legendary status after that bad call on the final question. I was building up brownie points this whole interview, and they're like, which is peak design? I went, Rock Lee, and you could just hear the
No, Rockley is peak design. I'm standing with you on that one.
but thank you for having me. This was very enjoyable. A lot of good, varied questions. Audience, thank you for tuning in. I hope it was entertaining for you, at the very least, hearing me switch up from my normal voice into something a little bit more aggressive.
I thought that was
you say?
Neo Cap. Madara, that sounded like.
Ah, yes. That's probably one of my favorites, is when I get to do a voice that has just a little bit of rasp. The fact that I can go from like voicing a character like this to someone like this almost immediately. That's like going from age 15 or 20 to 55. So,
Wow. Very impressive.
what is
Sean the
okay?
Goat.
They keep bringing up the Jogan. What is the Jogan?
It's Boruto's eye, or the other eye, the one that has like a black sclera.
Boruto Jogan. All right. Are you joking with me? Is that what this is about?
Nah, it's
Okay.
because certain people believe it not to be a real thing.
Like the eye isn't real?
Yeah, because in the manga, it was drawn differently, and then now, it's because it's all black and white. You can't
What's
tell.
the
You know what I
Jogan's
mean?
power? What is it supposed to enable him to do?
It
They
varies.
haven't
It
really been
depends.
clear
You
on
know.
that.
And
I
traverse
think, right?
dimensions.
It's an
But no,
eye
it's
that's in the anime. It's in the anime. They mention it a few times. We see it a few times.
It
It's
can
not
do
really
whatever
in the
is
manga.
necessary. It's one of those.
It can do.
you know?
Oh, it's the Ichigo 11th hour
Exactly.
superpower.
Exactly. It's one of those. So at one
Okay,
time he
well-
used it, he teleported. One time he used it, he could see the future. One time he used it, yada yada.
That to me, I'm about to go 0 for 2 on bad takes. That to me sounds like a hastily written in end game solution to the plot holes that otherwise would have arisen.
But see, that's the thing, right? It was there from the beginning. Literally,
It was there from the beginning?
Yeah, first thing you see, you pull up episode 1, you see it. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's definitely written.
It's episode 1. Yeah,
to always have been
maybe
there.
maybe the author
Chapter
just
1.
planned it in advance of like, I'm putting in a safety net, so if I ever write myself into a bad situation, I can just Jogan myself out of it.
I don't know, because it is Kishimoto, creator of Naruto.
Yeah, you've seen the
Okay,
first episode.
So you know what? The Jogan is like Santa Claus. It's as real as your heart makes it.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess. I mean, that's what I say.
Santa Claus, the person, may or may not have ever existed. Santa Claus, the concept, is as real as we allow it to be.
But St. Nicholas is a real person, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But were you around when he was around?
Hey, exactly. That's
so how do you know they didn't just make that shit up?
And,
now we need Saint Nick with a Jogan. Maybe that's how Santa gets everywhere he needs to get. He activates the Jogan eye and just immediately teleports to people's houses.
Well, again, it's not just teleporting. He used it once to teleport, and it wasn't even that he teleported.
That's how he knows who to give cold to, because he can read the negative chakra and be like, "Nah, fam, like this person is."
Oh, you're looking up at AI overview, huh? Negative chakra. Yeah, I know exactly what that is.
Do you talk to the producers at all? Is there ever any interaction with the actual story
the
writers?
original creators of the show?
Yeah.
Very, very rare. Like the only cases I can think of is if I go to an international con where they also happen to be special guests, but no.
If you do that, ask about the Jogan.
Okay.
Ask about that.
Have you ever met the other Metal Lee, like the Japanese version of it?
No, but since we were mentioning Draken, Japanese voice actor for Draken, and he was a very interesting individual. Everyone on the Tokyo Revengers cast was very loving and high energy, and it was very
fun. So BorutoFan, you're here now. BorutoFan also wanted to ask a question. Final question.
Okay. Hi, Sean. So I got one question. This is really important. How do you feel about Boruto as a character?
How do I feel about Boruto as a character? Mm-hmm. I think it's similar to so remember like when Pokemon was all the rage when you were in elementary school, and then by high school it was considered cringe, and then after college it's suddenly cool again, and all of us that grew up during that era in high school are like, we always knew it was cool, you just treated us like crap. I feel the same way about Boruto, where it's like most people, they're not perfect, but we often make fun of characters for traits that later we find endearing, and we go, oh, I liked when they did this, or this is what made them, not just a boring character, but in the moment we make fun of it because it catches us off guard.
So you're a follower.
So you're saying Boruto is cringe to you in the beginning?
No, I'm saying people think Boruto is cringe, but that's just their initial response to things that they later find endearing.
About to say, because literally episode 1 he saves a person getting bullied, so I call that cringe. I think that's Superman,
right?
That's
Superman. like and people made fun of Naruto for the same thing, where they're like, oh, maybe it's I'm listening to stupid online discourse instead of in-person fans. That's what I'm talking about, Anchor. People who don't understand hate, but you have to look at what the person does, not what they look like or what they sound like. Because Naruto, some people found Naruto's voice annoying. Some people found Naruto's, dress annoying, but Naruto fought for what was right. Naruto
you just said something that Boruto said.
Had a strong sense of justice, and Boruto follows the same path. We're past being cringe, bro. Cringe is free. So,
yeah, you just said something that Boruto said, or to the same extent at least. He also says, actions speak louder than words. That type of sentiment.
I would rather be weird and true to myself than be safe and boring as hell.
Hey, same with metal.
I asked you that question because Boruto is the greatest character in all of fiction. If you didn't know.
Nah, that's Subaru. I'm sorry.
Boruto
Hard.
drip.
Well, first
right?
off, Boruto be super in a fight, but nah. So whatchamacallit?
What is it, Boruto
there's
fan? Boruto
actually
drip.
oh yeah,
Uzumaki.
you want to say his name?
Drip. Otsutsuki, the greatest character in all of fiction. There is nobody better than him.
That's his catchphrase right there. But
Are you laughing? This is funny? No.
but there's in a Metal Lee episode. It's episode 70. It's Billy Kometz.
Don't even talk to me about drip when this character exists.
Who's that?
Reen Schwarzer. I just posted him.
Oh no, Two Blue Vortex
what?
drip is way harder. Have you seen Two Blue Vortex chapter covers?
Matter of fact,
Show me.
Boruto 2 Blue
Post
Vortex
the chapter
better.
covers. Yo, everyone, go post chapter covers in the podcast chat.
But no,
What
there
is
is.
this? You expect
what?
me to call this peak? What is this?
Oh my god.
What you mean?
No, he's hating. Oh my god.
What you mean? That ain't peak.
What's peak about it?
Oh, the jacket. That is so fashionable.
Hold on. Pull up some drip, guys. Pull up some drip.
Matter of fact, pull up Boruto. There you go. Way better. Way better.
Oh, okay. I do like the direction they took with Boruto on this. Like, I appreciate this direction.
Wait, Sean, you never seen this before? Is this your
Bro's
first
only
time
got
seeing
5 of the 8 gym badges, though.
Yeah, true.
And they actually have use. Those are his things to teleport
He's
around
trying to
with.
act like he's a master. His Pokemon won't even listen to him at level 51 onwards.
Oh, have
Show the
you seen
Kawaki one.
the
Show the Kawaki one.
Boruto as a Pokemon? He's a Pikachu because his name is Bolt.
Right.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I was like, oh my God, Boruto and Pokemon. And then they always reference each other. They call it Pokenin, obviously.
Here's the problem. Part of the drip is also based on the pose. You can have different drip, but if you pose the same way, you lose on the style points. What is this? It's the same pose.
That's Kawaki, though. He
It's
don't
the
care.
same pose.
That's Kawaki. Kawaki does not care about his looks.
It's the same pose.
He probably don't even shower.
That's Kawaki. We don't like Kawaki, just so you know.
Yeah.
Did you say? Did
like
you say that to Michael Schwalbe when they were on the call?
I
Or were you
definitely
like,
did.
I love Kawaki.
I definitely did. I
And
told
you know
him.
what? When I go back and watch the episodes and they hear Michael Schwab, I was watching it with Metal Lee, and it was crazy. Like it literally sounds like him.
But Sean, do you know why we don't like Kawaki?
do I what?
Do you know why we don't like Kawaki or no?
Why don't you like Kawaki?
Because what he did to Boruto. We're talking about in series. We're not talking about like his voice or Michael.
Yeah,
we're
not Michael.
We're talking about what he did to Boruto. So you're not like you have no idea what's going on, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Would you mind if I spoil or you don't
That's
care?
fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically they reversed lives. So Kawaki was the outsider. He stole Boruto's life, and now Boruto is being haunted.
That's not why he's. That's not
his
why.
title is he killed Naruto and Hinata. So he's like a traitor and a murderer of the Hokage.
Let me rephrase it. So this boy Kawaki was in such a corner. He was backed into a corner so bad. They literally had to rewrite everything, rewrite the story to make him the good guy and Boruto the bad guy. But then not just that, he took his life as the legitimate son of Naruto. And then he also, because that's bad enough, right? Oh, you took my life. Literally. But then he framed him for the murder of Naruto. You know?
And this is all canon in the story?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
but they're not dead. He's just sealed.
Yeah, they're not dead. It's he got teleported away. Nobody knows.
Right.
The body isn't found. But he supposedly got killed and he framed Boruto. How you gonna frame another man for something you did? At least own up to it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that's why we don't like him, because he is such a horrible human being, which makes sense because he isn't one. He's an alien.
What?
All right.
What?
We're going to wrap up
he's an alien
the
if you didn't know.
Chiplock podcast. Thank you for listening. Check out the Boruto Club, Boruto.club, twobluevortex.com.
But you should
Sean,
read.
thank you so much.
even though
Really, thank you so
Metal
much.
Lee isn't
Thank
gonna
you
be
for
as much
having me.
in
I
here.
hope I earned more respect than I lost over the course of this
you good, you
interview.
good.
Honestly, I like that you sent that Kawaki picture and slandered him. That made me like you even more. Kawaki over here.
But you should read though, because even though Metal Lee ain't in the manga right now, or probably in the future,
Right.
Listening to what we said, like he killed Naruto, he framed him.